Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to the August garden tour. Now I have a lot to share with you. So many flowers just beginning to get into their stride at this time of year. August, I always think, is a very kind of calm time. The jobs that needed to be done during the year are largely finished in terms of pruning and other kinds of things, although there's still plenty to do in terms of cutting back and deadheading. The deadheading goes on, but that's always a joy anyway. How wonderful to remove spent flowers each day and find them replenished by loads and masses of new ones within a few days. And wonderful, we have a bit of sunshine, so let's get on with the garden tour. For those of you who are new to my channel, then you're very welcome, as are those who are veterans. And I just want to let you know that I garden in Southern Ireland in what roughly equates to as hardiness zone 9. Now, this isn't a system we use in Ireland, so just take it as a rough guide of what I might get through the winter and what I might not. The garden, it's an acre in size, that's half a hectare, and it was a greenfield site when we moved in approximately 24 years ago, so all of this has sprung up since then. Sprung up, I say. Sprung up! Ha! Nothing springs up in gardening except weeds. It's very much down to the hard graft of the gardener, as you all know, I'm quite sure. Now we're starting this garden tour over here in the west part of the garden in what I call Joshy's garden, and we're standing among my cosmos, which have done magnificently this year. And there was a video I made a little while ago just giving you an update on how the cosmos went, because I trialled 6 different varieties, the best of which is this glorious white one, which is really loved by the bees. They're just all over it. And yeah, what's not to love? One daily job that is very important at this time of year is to come out and deadhead the cosmos, but it's just so rewarding because it just brings about so many flowers and so much beauty in the garden. This section of the garden has been revamped quite recently, and that meant taking out a lot of plants and replanting, and that's why you may find some gaps over here. One plant that has done really well, one that I grew from seed, is this beautiful blue Lobelia syphilitica, which has a very kind of pale blue, tall, spire-ish flower. And I have ones that were planted out last autumn and ones that were planted out really just a few weeks ago. It's supposedly a hardy plant, and I look forward to it going on and doing great things in the garden. It looks magnificent against this purplish cosmos. The cosmos, of course, being gazebo red, one I highly recommend. Cosmos rubenza, of course, can't be beaten for its fantastic red colour. The Persicaria bank at the back of this garden is now in full flower with all of its pink spires looking absolutely magnificent, but it has been quite dry and I've had to cut back some plants, notably my Lobelia bridgersii here just behind the pond. You can tell by the level of the pond how little water we've been having. It's either been too dry or too wet. What can I say? Well, that's enough for over here. Let's go and explore the bigger part of the garden. Let's go into the garden through this arch. There are two twin paths, one of which leads down to the wheel there at the end, and there have been some changes down there. Let's have a look. Down here you'll notice a very big empty patch in the border, and that's because just 2 days ago I dug out the mother of all hostas, and this was a large plant that was giving no value to this full sun border. Well, this is considered full sun in Ireland. Those of you in hotter climes mightn't consider it to be so much so, but it is a good spot to grow something that has beautiful flowers. And you can see that I have some of my tiger lilies in here, which obviously like full sun, and it was just time for that hosta to go. So out it came, and now I have a patch to play around with. To the right of a patch is a large Sanguisorba pink brushes, which desperately needs dividing. Now I'm not going to divide it now because it's about to come into flower, and besides, plants that flower at this end of the year, the latter end of the year, should be divided in spring rather than autumn. So I will maybe put a piece of it back here, but the majority is going somewhere else, just freeing up a lot of space. I have a little silvery thing going on over here, which I may repeat or may move, I'm not quite sure. So on the left we have an Artemisia, which is really very much a ground cover plant, quite nice as such. Just beside it we have the onion smelling Tulbagia, which has actually flowered this year. This one's a little bit tricky. I think it's kind of borderline tender, and I've lost it before, but hey, it seems to be doing okay here. But all in all, it's great to have a new space to play around with and to put plants in, and I'll have fun rejigging this one. So now we're going to head on over here to the long border, and we have some late colour really from Legularia and Likeness, but I have some terrible news. The Agastache that I planted last autumn has proved not hardy, and it's dead. I bought 2 of them, planted them both in the garden, and both of them are gone. So beautiful though it was, it's not one I'll be repeating again. Some Agastaches are perfectly hardy and some are not. You just have to find the right ones. It is a shame because the colours looked very nice in this spot here, but I'll just have to find something else to fit in. Maybe something orange to echo the theme further down in the border. Legularia are joyous with their big flowers now at this time of year, but I've taken to deadheading them, which is to remove the brown heads as they go over and just leave the ones that are yellow. And I think it helps the flowering season last longer. And just moving a little bit to the left, you can see that the lilies have mostly finished, although we do have a few of the Lavin tree lilies still in bloom. And I of course deadhead them as I go, cut off the flower heads once they have finished so that the plant doesn't put energy into making seed. And I have a couple of really tall plants to show you here at the back of this border. So now if we look up, kind of running up the spire of the verbascum there, which is finished flowering but still adds structure and interest to the garden, and we see some tall things like the giant pink eupatorium there on the right, brilliant for just standing up by itself. Not my favourite plant, it's one I've gotten rid of in the border in front of the glass house, but it's still here and it's okay, it's doing fine. Behind it we have Tetrapanix rex with those giant jungle leaves looking great, and just underneath it and to the left of the eupatorium we have a rudbeckia called herbstone. And this really is a tall rudbeckia. The challenge with it is to stake it so that it doesn't end up just flopping itself over your other plants. And I think I have it this year. I put in a tree stake and I've tied it twice around and it seems to be holding. There are a number of flowers out already, and because of course when the flowers open up they add weight to the plant and it suddenly becomes a lot heavier and can break stakes or string that's holding it, or trip over the string, worse still, and break its own spike. But it seems to be holding, so that's good news. It's nice to have things that have late interest. In this island bed just in front of the long border we have a crocosmia, which is in flower at the moment, and I think it would be in better flower if I moved it to a position of more sun. It is not giving its best, and this is one I'm going to have to divide in spring. Again, with the flowering at this end of the season means that we don't divide it until spring. And speaking of tall plants that need staking, let's just take a look over here. And I think you probably can't see the lilies very well because they are dark against the hedge behind them. And these are Lilium Black Beauty, which always needs staking and always try to defy the staking. But even though I managed to put them up, they still bend a little bit, but that's okay. And yes, I do like my grasses. I love the wavy Stipa tenuissima, and I think I really appreciate them more at this end of the year. They're there always and they do a good job always, but at this end of the year, just something about the quality of light catching them. It's magical. The geranium at the front is Anne Thompson, and she is doing a great job. This is her second flush. I do have another one called Dragon Heart down the end, but you know what? I've changed my mind. I think Anne Thompson is the best. And in here with Anne and some tagetes, some marigolds and the grasses, we have a sedum which is variegated, so adds interest for all of the year really, but at this time of year it begins to colour up and it will look amazing when the flowers come in. So you can see that the umbels are completely white at the moment, but they will take on deep pink hues, which are very autumnal and very attractive and certainly match in with the colour theme here in this border. So we have one of the sedums up here. We've got the second of them in here in the middle, and the third one is right down here. So this is by far my favourite sedum, and one that I've divided and put over on the other side of the garden. In Joshy's garden we have it too. I've put a white phlox through this border. It had always been here, but last autumn I divided it and dotted it throughout, although I see it only in flower here at the moment. I think the other clumps which are the smaller clumps, the divisions, they haven't flowered yet, and I think it looks really nice and just adds that bit of interest in the border at this time of year. And this is what I like to do in this particular border anyway, to echo things, so to carry the colour or the plant through the whole border. And do you see that pink daisy just there beside the phlox? So this is a Japanese anemone, great for shade, a tall plant, and what's not to love except for the fact that it wants to take over the world. Now this is one that was given to me by a friend about 13 years ago, and I thought I'd gotten rid of it, but now with the removal of the yuccas here last autumn, suddenly I see it again. I think it's not that it was dormant and just popped up, it must have always been there at the back and I just didn't notice. But you know what, it looks kind of cheerful and happy back there, and maybe I'll leave it and give it a chance. It would be hard to get rid of it anyway, I imagine. The Alstroemeria dotted in here is of course Alstroemeria oriana, which has been deadheaded but has only graced me with a smattering of new flowers. We can see the tall lily, the Black Beauty, a bit better when the sun goes in, there at the back beside the hydrangea. Unfortunately, there's a definite autumn feel to the garden at the moment. Something, well, on the positive side, something about the quality of light is really good, but the temperatures the temperatures feel chilly. Behind the white phlox is a cotinus. This one is called Grace, and if you leave it, it will get massive. Every spring I coppice, or pollard really, I pollard it. I leave a little bit of a stump and I cut it down to the base. And I just find it behaves so much better if I do that. I think the enormous, beautifully coloured leaves you would get anyway, the large leaves, because generally speaking, pollarding or coppicing can lead to large leaves in plants that are prone to do so, like Paulownia. But I think Grace generally has large leaves, but certainly she's so much more manageable with this treatment, and I'll continue to do so. Of course, I don't get flowers, but you can't have everything. So leaving behind us the long border, which is that patch over there on the right, just a little note about the big conifer tree, which has a big planting of Virginia underneath it. Such a great plant for dry shade. It's incredible. Absolutely recommended 100%. And this is a difficult area, dry shade, lots of pine needles falling, so very acidic. And I think I found a good solution, much better than epimediums, which is the plant that's usually recommended for dry shade. And to the left of that we have Hydrangea Annabelle, which is a classic, and I'm sure all of you grow Hydrangea Annabelle in your garden. She's magnificent and does so well in dappled shade. Besides liking dappled shade, the dappled shade does the super job of just showing off her colours, her creamy whites and her greens. And well, there she is, and she's magnificent. And before we move on up the garden, just a little note to say that the Crocosmia, which is inside of this box ring around the cherry blossom tree, has been cut back so that it doesn't lie on top of the buxus. The buxus, of course, has suffered from box blight on a couple of occasions, so we want to give it the best chance we can. And now we will take a little jaunt up the garden. There's something down here I forgot to show you when we walked down a bit earlier. It's the geranium. Well, we were down here just a minute ago, but I forgot to mention this fantastic geranium called Dreamland, just at the foot of the gargoyle. Now, this was planted just last year, but look how magnificently it's done. It has just spread and spread, and that's exactly what I wanted in this position of semi-shade, because there's an ugly stump in there of euphorbia I took out, and I wanted to I couldn't get the stump out, couldn't plant anywhere around it, and I just wanted something to cover it, and that is exactly what Dreamland has done, and it flowers for a very long time. I mean, you can't even see that stump, can you? But I assure you it's there. And you'll notice some Monarda Cambridge Scarlet here just beside the gargoyle, and this is from a division from the main plant, which was in the long border. Now, you may have noticed that the clump in the long border has diminished so much since last year, and I think maybe I was just a little bit too greedy in dividing it too small. Just a little bit further over we have the second path that I talked about, and it's flanked by Kinnicloa rubra, the New Zealand tussock grass, which really looks fantastic at this time of year, producing lots of seed. And I gave lots of seed out to people who visited my garden recently, and hopefully they'll have the same success that I did in growing it into mature plants like these. And over here we have my Legularia bed, where they do so well despite the fact that my garden is super dry, got super stony soil, and this is a plant that likes water. I cannot explain it, but there you go. The slugs do like it, but yeah, it's looking great at the moment, and it's looking all the more lovely because of the fact that I deadheaded it. And you know, you need to make a decision on what you're going to deadhead in your garden and what you're not going to deadhead, because you probably can't get to everything. I always left these in place because I kind of liked the seed heads once they had all completely become seed heads. However, there was always an in-between time where you had a smattering of flowers and very ugly brown clumps beside them. And anyway, I have enough Legularia. I don't need the plant to seed, so I've taken now to deadheading them, just removing the spent flowers, and that will of course obviate the need to be weeding out baby Ligularias from this bed until my hands are raw. And now we move into the next part of the garden where the peony border, this is the border where I keep the Ito hybrid peonies that flower in May, and now it's just, it looks fantastic in May, but now it looks a bit sorry for itself with just 2 or 3 things in flower, one of which is Sanguisorba lilac squirrel, which has done so well despite it being in semi-shade, and I need an injection of colour here in this border. So seeing that the Sanguisorba has done well, and there's a salvia that's done well, and the lily has done well, I think I can probably get away with some more things that will bring colour. Just opposite we have another border that gets a bit more light, and here you'll see some more of the Tagetes that was in the last border. So these are fantastic marigolds, and this little cutie is amazing. I saw it somewhere and I had to take some seed, and I have managed to grow it from seed. Now I don't have just orange ones, there are yellow ones as well, but it makes a kind of little bush, and I just think it's the cutest little thing. And if you saw my last garden tour, you'll recall how I was complaining about slugs eating the marigolds that I placed in the long border. They ate all of this marigold when I put it down there. I put lots of them down, and they were all stripped bare, leaving just the other one that is still there. So the remaining ones that I still had in trays I placed here, and the slugs haven't found them yet, so I'm very happy about that. And now it's time to head up to the stone table and that upper part of the garden. But before we pass by, just have a quick look at Lobelia tupa. There she is, just going over now, and she's flanked by some tiger lilies. These were the original tiger lilies I had in the garden, the ones that I took the bulbs from to do the propagation. So I now have 3 species lobelias in my garden. I've mentioned the other 2 so far. I wonder, do you remember them? But the third is Lobelia tupa, this one. A little bit to our left beside the statue we have Anopheles, which is that silvery plant there on the ground, and this area is yeah, it's a little bit shady, but the Anopheles seems to do okay, and it's flanked on the right there by Persicaria red dragon. The Alstroemeria there on the right haven't yet come back into flower despite good deadheading. Our next stop is at what I call the green border, and there are some interesting things of note in here, some things in good flower, and I suppose the grass at the very front really looks lovely at this time of year with its long, wispy, fine bits. Earlier on in the year I was thinking, oh, why do I have that grass in there? It's not very good, is it? But when kind of midsummer comes around, it really earns its keep. My eucamus is in good flower this year, and I think I have, oh well, yeah, I can see I've got 4 spikes and they're holding themselves upright, and it's just fantastic. To the right of it we have the red delphinium, which I'm leaving to see if it will produce seed, because I would like to propagate that one. Back here we have Diascia personata, which I talked about in length in my recent video on the new plants I bought, because oh yes, I bought some more Diascia personata, and I'm putting a second plant in here in the border to echo this one, which as you can see is really tall. So where is the second one? It's over here. It's not as tall as the first, and that's because, well, it hasn't had a chance to establish. And yeah, and things in pots don't get terribly tall, do they? They don't grow terribly tall. So in time it will lift up and just do its stuff. And you can see flashes of yellow in there from the Rudbeckia and the Helianthus, which I bought last year, this time last year. You may recall the video. You will if you're a long-term subscriber. And this is Helenium Satin's early flower, and it is past its first flush, but I've just recently deadheaded it and you can see all the flowers that are coming. So this is going to have a very long flowering season, the best Helenium really. And right down here at the very front of the border we have a little marigold called Red Knight, a Tagetes as well as the others you've seen so far. And of course there are plenty of Amaranthus mixed into many of my beds. And this one is a Love Lies Bleeding, which I will continue to grow for many years from now, I think. And there we go, that brings me to the end of this garden tour video, which I hope you very much enjoyed. If you didn't manage to make it to one of my public open days, then there's always next year. And to all of the groups that came to visit this year, thank you very much. I hope to welcome you back here another time. And if you are in a gardening group, then do consider Douentza Garden as part of your summer garden tours. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!